It's like Tremors with cars.
Yes. Yes.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Booyah! Mm-hmm. Little cyborg.
Yeah, little cyborg. That's right. And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Yo.
Right. It's a weird he does the cyborg thing after we did this Nostalgia Critic Justice League thing.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe I was doing the Stuart Scott thing, huh?
Oh, could be the Stuart Scott thing. He's relevant these days.
Well, I'm just saying, Cyborg obviously got it from somewhere, and Stuart Scott basically coined that phrase.
That's true. That's true.
But I was just wanted to say something energetic, so I could pump up myself because I'm not feeling very energetic.
It's funny. After we did the countdown mini pod, somebody wrote on Facebook. They said, love how Chris sounds completely defeated during this or something like that. Just completely down and depressed. The entire
fucking movie.
It's such a bad movie. But, so let's get it all started off. You guys have had a week to be upset about something, and you always are. So let's do it.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I'm as mad as hell!
You've never seen me very upset.
Lord Jesus! Lord Jesus!
Well, if you're going to the grocery,
oh yes,
you have an option. You basically have a choice. You can drive along in front of the fucking store,
which is stupid,
where there are walkways for pedestrians, the opening, closing, sliding doors, and usually stop signs.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to drive there.
That's true.
You could go to the far other end of the Kroger Publix,
which is
Walmart,
where you probably should be driving.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to drive up there up front, don't you get fucking impatient with me like I'm walking too slow. Don't you gun your engine. Don't you creep past that stop sign to where you're 3 feet away from me as I take my last 2 steps, or I will get loud.
Yeah.
Because that shit, I actually stopped and turned and stared at a guy the other day. I usually put my wife, I put myself between my wife and any cars that are there. It's just kind of a thing I do. And I hadn't gotten to it this time, so she was behind me. And I heard a little bit of a rev, and I kind of pushed her forward and turned. I stopped, if he would have driven, he would have hit me. I stopped full on in the walkway and just stared at the dude.
What was he doing? He was revving his engine?
Yes.
What the fuck?
Because he's in a hurry. Because he's a Tennessee...
Right.
You're right, and I've seen this, but you're making me angry just talking about it.
You just drive the other way. Yeah. I don't ever drive along in front of the store because I actually stop. I hate stopping and waiting for slow-moving walkers.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
That's why I go the long way.
That's something that I do every time I go to the Best Buy that's in Nashville West. There's the entrance that I go into. There's 2 ways to go. You can either go in the front, like you're talking about, and go past a Target and several other stores to get to Best Buy. Yeah. Or you can go around this back way, which you can
just drop right in.
Just drop in, which is what I do all the time. And because if you do go the other way, and occasionally I'll find myself doing that because it's the guy that turned down the one that I like to go down is going too slow or something like that. Yeah, you have to sit there and deal with it, and you're like, man, I might as well have just stayed behind the guy who was slow because all these people going through Target. There are 2 sides to this coin, though, and I'm totally on your side. I'm totally on your side because if you're gonna go that way, you've got to stop. You've got to sit there and be annoyed because that's your fucking choice.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But on the other side, there are people who take advantage of that.
I agree.
And there are people who you're stopping for, and you're like, okay, I can understand stopping for. Then some other person's like, oh, well, if that person's going, I'm going to go too.
Yes.
And then after a while, you're just sitting there waiting for more and more people over and over. And finally, you just gotta nudge that car a little bit. And
do the pedestrians and I'm asking this honestly, do the pedestrians always have the right of way in that situation?
I think they do.
Well,
even if they're being assholes about it.
That was the one point drilled home to me in driver's ed was the pedestrians always have the right of way.
That's what I remember too.
Like,
yeah.
even if they're jaywalking and they might get a ticket for jaywalking if you hit them, you're still going to get in trouble if you hit them.
Yeah,
you have to always be.
yeah.
But I don't know if that applies in private parking lots.
Oh, that's true.
I
yeah.
don't think those stop signs are like enforceable.
No, they're always like in like little cones. Or
I
something
honestly
like
think that they always have the right of way, regardless. I mean, they can't just walk right in front of your car, like just jump out in front of it. But if they're in any way intending to get into that area, you have to make sure you don't run over them.
Yeah.
I mean, just as a moral obligation.
Well, no, I agree with that. I got the right of way, motherfucker.
But like that's the thing. Like, especially if you do that thing at the Target and everything, you're sitting there because people are just coming out and going in all over the place. And it gets to the point where, like, okay, guys, I understand you're pedestrians, but I got to be someplace too. I'm going to be a pedestrian at some point. I'll be one of you guys at some point. But if you just let me go, I can do that.
I can join you.
I can join you. But like, no, I've never done anything stupid. Like, when like, no, you're not fucking going. You just have to kind of nudge that car a little bit once that last person gets out of your way, and kind of, all right, look, I'm gonna move along here, and I'll get out of your way soon.
I mean, I want to make sure everybody understands that I, as a driver, can also get very frustrated with pedestrians, specifically the ones down Chris's street or the street near Chris's,
yeah,
that don't walk 200 steps to a crosswalk and just walk across in the middle.
Yeah.
And the people do that all over the place. And those people really annoy me because, I'll get in big trouble if I hit you, but it'll still be your fucking fault.
But I also agree too that I hate the ones who, after you're out of the way, they have to make a point with their gas pressing.
Yes.
That it's like, boy, you really put me out there.
Yes.
So you hear a louder than normal engine noise when they go past.
I saw a great tweet from Laurent, this is probably like 10 months ago by now, but he basically said, I'll give you 2 courtesy half-ass jog steps that aren't actually any faster than walking, but that's all you get from me. I'm going to go at the pace I want to go, and you're going to drive after I'm done.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel. I don't run to get across, but Jesus.
His is a reasonable pace, as I'm sure is yours. Yeah. It's not like now we've all run into the non-infirm pedestrian that is going slower than they can go.
Oh, yeah.
And that is
looking
very
at
annoying
a phone.
too. Yes, exactly. But in general, let people walk, especially at the fucking grocery store.
Especially
this
now,
is a great rant.
Almost all these stores, Target is an exception, but almost every Kroger, Publix, or Walmart that I know of in this area has 2 massive entrances.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go along the front, you're double fucking yourself. Because even if you get through the one, there's a whole other one with people walking back and forth. Just don't even. Why? Why would you even?
Yes.
Just go in the other way.
Doesn't make sense.
And then especially you're going to try and make me feel guilty because it's like I'm keeping you from something.
That's the broader point, I think, is that, if you do absentmindedly or whatever, just like because it's convenient, like go down the front row for whatever reason, you're right. You have no right whatsoever to get annoyed with anything in front of you, any pedestrians. That's what it's designed for.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every now and then I'll pull into the grocery store, and right up there by the stop sign is one of those senior living facility buses, and it takes 10 minutes for everybody to get off that thing. And you just have to go around.
Yeah.
Go around. Just always go around.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then we haven't even gotten into the people that park their car right in the fire lane just to run in for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Now I will MacGruber your car with a golf club. It's like a friend of mine was really shocked a few days ago. We had lunch, and I was going off about somebody I'd seen park in a handicap spot who didn't have a plate, tag, sticker, nothing. I am almost always assume those people are assholes, but I do give the benefit of the doubt. But he couldn't believe how angry I was about that. Like, that's one of my soapboxes. Don't fucking park in the handicap spot, even if it's only for 30 seconds.
That's right. That's what.
Don't fucking do it.
That's what happened to George and Kramer.
And really, honestly, how much time are you saving? How much of your physical, fitness are you risking by just parking way far away? You know, like, it's not a big deal. Walking to the spot that you parked in takes seconds.
Yeah.
So like you're not saving any time.
Yeah.
That's why I've never been a big like find the best parking spot guy.
Yeah.
I was just like whatever. Like if I see one down, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
But like if it's one of those as a sea of cars and I don't know if there's a good spot, I'll just find the first one and just walk.
It's good for you. And plus, the pro tip for the grocery store is to not park nearest to the store. It's to park nearest to the cart return.
Fuck yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Even if it's at the back of the fucking
I thought I was the only one that did that.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
I thought I was the only one that did that.
This is a life hack right
My
here.
wife is always like, you just passed 3 spaces. And I'm like, yeah, but then we're going to have to walk the cart 50 feet further when we're done.
Yeah, the Publix that I go to, I always try to find the spot that's close to the end where there's the boundary between the other stores and everything. And there's this one nice convenience, cart place there.
Yeah.
And so, like, if I can't get that, I'll go somewhere farther along, but I'll try to get to that one that's like right close to it, because you're right. It's what happens is you go out, if you park really super close and
it's not going to be, you're either going to have to go all the way back into the store, which is much further away than you actually think it is, or you have to go all the way out into the parking lot where you should have parked in the first place.
Did you see the news story about the Nashville guy who stole a grocery cart's electric scooter and hit 2 bars before they caught him?
Oh my God,
that's a great story.
That's such a
I have not seen that.
Such
that's
a Nashville story.
Such
a Nashville story.
Those things go like half a mile an hour. How many slackers were there?
Yeah.
Like, how close was the bar to the store?
Well, and how many
by scooters
and
like
how many
pedestrians?
people saw him do this too? Like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Oh shit.
Oh man.
What's your rant? You got a great rant.
Do I okay, so I went and saw Motherless Brooklyn at our old theater, the Hollywood 27.
Nice.
Oh wow.
I tried to.
You see Shane?
I did not. I didn't see anybody I recognized. And some of that, the idea that I can't recognize anybody anymore, somewhat kind of ties a little bit into this too, because people don't know that I worked there, and they don't know that I have 20 years of movie theater experience. So I try to distribute my watch time evenly among the theaters and everything. Try to find convenience and just like, I haven't been there in a while, whatever. I haven't been to Hollywood 27 in a while, so I saw Motherless Brooklyn there, and I noticed during the trailers, probably should have said something during the trailers, but you never know if there's some new policy that they're going on, whatever. The lights went down completely during the trailers, which is something that is for the longest time that I worked projection was not a policy. You'd always have the lights during the trailers because people were going to their seats and everything. So it was always a policy to have the lights up. So I saw the lights go down completely, and I was like, that's a bad sign.
Yep.
Because that means the lights are going to come up during the feature. And sure enough, that's what happened.
Like as soon as the
movie
film
started. Yeah. And so I, had to get out of there and I mean, I knew immediately. I probably already had my finger on the button, went out and, so customer service is dealing. When I say this, I'm not saying this in a pejorative way, but there was a guy in a wheelchair talking to the guy in customer service, and he obviously had some sort of issue with what was going on at the theater. So that was a thing I was not going to be able to sit through and tell him about the lights. I could have maybe just said, hey, something about the lights, but he might have forgotten about it and all that. So turned to the ticket terror guy, and I don't think everybody has radios like they used to. But I turned to him and I was like, yeah, the lights came up during the feature in Auditorium 26. And he goes, well, the Casper the Friendly Ghost up there pushing buttons and stuff and all that. And
not only is that stupid, he obviously did not realize who he was talking to.
No, he had no fucking clue. Now, I mean, the story is better if I'm like, do you know who I am? But I just sort of nodded and was like, just give me some acknowledgement that this is going to get fixed. That's all I care about. And he's like, I'll tell him when it's done. And it took him maybe 3 minutes for the lights to come down and everything. But this sort of highlights a weird thing about theaters. Like nobody knows nobody downstairs seems to know what's going on a lot of times. And then they invent excuses, and they're telling. There's no telling what they're telling customers these days.
Yeah,
like if they're going to Casper the Friendly Ghost,
it's the default.
Yeah, if they're saying that, and you want to say, look, it's not a ghost. It's someone is not making your digital print the right way, where the lights go completely. Like you're supposed to have in a. And this has happened with 35 millimeter too, but in digital, you have cues that you put into the thing, like at certain times. So, you should have a cue. So after you start it, the cue should make the lights go down immediately, make halfway during the trailers. You have put a cue at a certain time point on your digital print where the lights go down completely. Then at the end, this is the key part, because this is the part that got fucked up. It was from the previous show. Obviously, the last part should have a cue that shuts down the movie, makes everything, the lights come back up, makes everything go back to intermission mode, essentially. And this one was not apparently in intermission mode, because it's supposed to have a cue that says, okay, I know what to do on this next show automatically. And then when the movie starts, I know that I need to do this. But instead, when everything's out of order, it goes, oh, I need to do this. And it's not smart. It just sits there and goes, oh, I just need to make the lights do something. So It changes to the next possible thing, which is the one it should have been on the last show.
I see. Do you do those cues by hand? Like you actually put those in, or do
they
come on the print
metal tape?
itself?
Yeah. Well, on 35 millimeters, you'd have this cue tape. It was like a little mirror like tape or whatever you put on there, and it would go through some sensors, and the sensors, a light would shine on that thing or whatever, and it would be like, oh, okay, and then it would just, so it's a quote unquote stupid system, because once the cue goes through, if the cue doesn't work, then there's nothing to tell it to go to the lights. And then when the next cue goes through, it says, oh, okay, we'll just put it in the next phase.
Whatever.
Yeah,
whatever
it didn't know. It was pre-programmed, and the first time you see the metal tape, do this. The second time you see the metal tape, do this. And so my first theater, which was not Regal, the big problem was that the projectionists liked reusing trailer packs. So we'd take a part of a trailer pack from a previous print that had a cue on it.
Yeah.
But not realize there was a cue there, and then put a new trailer on, put a cue there, and now we've got an extra cue. So that would result in the lights coming up as the feature starts.
And I used to get that was an issue where you didn't know the cue was there. There was also the problem with you'd pick up a print from another place. Their cues were completely different. And you'd bring something over and you'd start it up, and you weren't looking for cues when you run these prints, but they'd have their own on there. And so like somewhere it would just, you put your own on there, and then you just have multiple cues just running, and the lights would go up during the feature and all that. Sometimes you get stray ones that would just manage to find their way into the middle of the movie somehow. Lights would come up in the middle of the movie, and you're like, what the fuck?
And you can override these whenever you wanted to, but you would have to know what was going on, right?
Yeah, they're not training the fucking ushers at Hollywood 27 on how to fix
what I'm
that.
saying is that, say it does, whether it was 35 millimeter or digital, say something does go askew, like what happened with you, that person can then go in and put that cue in or override it one way or another.
You have to go, all right, what happened on this? And a lot of times you can just, with a digital, all you have to do is just look and see if everything is supposed to, you're supposed to have this light cue happens at the end of the trailers. This light cue happens during the credits. And this cue at the end shuts everything off, makes the lights come back up. And that's what the digital ones are a little bit smarter, because they know you can put in a specific lights up or lights down. I can't remember actually if it was like that. I think they're just, whatever the case may be, you have to program the cues in there. And if you don't have one, then the order is going to be completely off.
I got you. And
like
whatever.
For instance, in the 35 millimeter, and the digital is pretty much the same way. You just have a digital thing that you put on. But in 35, you would start the movie. Now the projector would already be automated, where it would be like, okay, once you press start, this is what Hollywood 27 had. They had 4 different light things. There was a little box on the side of on the wall, And they were all set to a certain thing. 1 was up here, which was all the highest as it would be. 2 would be halfway, 3 would be all the way down, and then 4 would be back up. So they're always supposed to start in 1. When you press start, the projector goes, okay, automatically it goes to 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then the preview cue goes through, and it goes, all right, go to 3 all the way down. And then another cue goes up for the credits, and then it go to 4. And then you have one final cue that goes through at the end when you put it at the very tail end of the movie that would go, okay, shut everything off, put it in the intermission, blah, blah, blah. It's back to 1.
So it resets to 1, even though 1 is the same as 4.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got you.
That way, when it starts again, it goes back to 2 and so on.
Just
but if you miss one,
yeah, it's all out of
order.
whack.
So
Yeah,
like what would happen a lot with, because I think the tail ends of 35 millimeters were so put through the ringer so many times, those would wear out the fastest. So there would be times where you go over to a projector and like it would be sitting there with the lights up in 4 and all that. And that meant also the tail end of your movie went through and it was like, because there's no soundtrack on that thing. So so it would go through that. If it didn't work, it would just do that and, and probably fucked up half your speakers. But it would stay in 4. And if you didn't notice that, so you press start, it would go to 1.
Yeah.
And then the light, the light cue would go through, and it would just go to 2 and stay there throughout the movie.
It almost sounds like it was easier back in the 1930s when there was just a dude who turned the lights down when the trailers were over.
Yeah,
turn the dial.
Yeah. I mean, well, and back in the day, also they only had the one auditorium.
Yeah.
So like they could do all that stuff, and it's better that way. But then once multiplexes started,
with 28 screens, you can't have a dude in every auditorium.
No.
Dude.
Yeah, I mean, you could be the dutiful projectionist and walk around, and I would do that from time to time. Walk around, make sure lights went down, all that, and make sure it's in frame because you'd start movies where the previews would be the first thing you'd see, or an ad or something, and you didn't know exactly how to frame that. You'd like, that looks good, and then walk off, and then come back, and then it's like like this high up, and you're like, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, that's the thing. It's amusing to hear the excuses that these people have. They'll blame a Casper the Friendly Ghost before they blame the fact that they just didn't do the thing right.
Yeah.
You know?
I know we're doing a mini pod of this, but just overall, what'd you think of Motherless Brooklyn?
I liked it. Now it's getting, I think, mostly positive reviews. But it's one of those movies where I feel like Edward Norton shouldn't have been directing it, and he should have just been the actor in this.
It's the opposite of the Argo thing.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
I mean, I guess it's possible. I mean, in this case, Edward Norton should do either or maybe, whereas Ben Affleck shouldn't be in Argo at all and just be directing it. I just feel like Edward Norton, the performer, is always he's a stronger performer than Ben Affleck. So you can put Edward Norton in anything. It's fine, but either or on this. And so there's some indulgences he goes through because he's Edward Norton, and it's 2.5 hours. So there's a lot of things where you're like, man, I could see you chopping this, man. You wouldn't have lost anything. And but the mystery's good. The performances, you get a huge cast and great performances and everything, and Gugu Mbatha-Raw is cute.
Yeah,
I did read. I did read a recent interview with Norton, probably promoting Motherless Brooklyn, where he was asked basically the Spielberg question: "What do you think about streaming services? Are they killing or changing cinema?" And his answer was really He's probably a bit too much in a few areas, but I think that dude's really smart. And his response surprised me because he said, no, it's not. Look at what Netflix did with Roma. They put an entirely Spanish language film in over 1,000 screens in the U.S. That didn't ever happen before Netflix came along. And I was like, wow, what a refreshing way to look at it instead of just, they're infringing on our stuffs.
It seems like he's like actually given this some thought to where.
Yeah, well, and I think that's probably his problem is he gives everything some thought.
By the way,
stop thinking it.
Somebody sent me this through email. I guess it was yesterday. That Scorsese got in the New York Times with an opinion.
Oh yeah,
piece, and he was trying to explain more what he meant by all the stuff.
Good.
And yeah, again, it's the same. I mean, really, to me, it doesn't matter how much he explains that thing. He's still, I mean, it's still going to be the same argument. It doesn't really matter what he said there. And he was trying to say that the problem now is that studios only want to do franchise pictures, which is possible. But he's also seeming to equate that with nobody can make their movie anymore. I guess maybe the one thing that gets out of this is that the person who wants to make their movie isn't going to find a theater to do that in. But he's sort of, I mean, even though he acknowledged that he did The Irishman on Netflix and it was the only way he could have gotten it done, I guess his main thing is that these more challenging movies don't have a chance to get into movie theaters and things like that. And then, of course, he sort of doubled down on his whole what he meant about the cinema thing and everything. And again, it's, you know, I don't agree with him about the people not being able to make their movies. There's so many. He's not really saying that, but I mean, anybody who wants to make their movie has way more options than they did back in the day. Even the 70s.
Oh yeah.
You know, it used to be just the studios. Now there's a ton of places you can self-publish on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. I now have a theory that I just wanted the story to die, like I was talking about last week. I have a theory that now he's actively trying to keep this going because it keeps The Irishman at the top of the list. So now we're going on a month of this story going on. And I think now he's just saying, if I can ride this until it actually releases on Netflix, it will be at peak SEO or whatever it is.
Yeah, maybe.
So he's gonna publish an op-ed in the New York Times. He's gonna keep this going.
More power to him.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's. I think it got out of his control, and now he's wrestled the control back and like running the narrative.
We'll see if Coppola starts talking about it again when his next movie comes out.
Well,
By the way,
I do think it's hilarious that Coppola, who directed one of the most famous franchises in the universe, is talking about franchises being.
By the
a
way,
bad
I
thing.
realize why I always call him Coppola instead of Coppola. It's because he's got 2 fucking P's in his name.
It's the double P, one L.
The English language tells me that's cop.
Yeah, I know.
And the other, with 1 P, I think Coppola would flow naturally from my lips.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me it was just that I heard it so many times. I'm such a trailer guy, so like, you know, you may have been too, overall I know, but like I was such a trailer guy, especially in projection and everything. I used to watch trailers all the time. That's why like so many of them resonate that I remember and everything. And so I would hear people's names constantly over and over and over again, and just got to the point where, all right, that's what that dude's name. That's where I possibly got that Charlie's or Charlie's. Which one? Charlie's is, I think, the wrong one.
Charlie's is the wrong one. Yes.
And like I could almost swear it was like, you know, Reindeer Games or something like that. Where I heard Charlie's, and it was the Don LaFontaine, you know, thing, and I'm like, okay, that's how you pronounce that. Okay, I got it. And then you start hearing people saying Charlie's all the time. You're like, wait a minute, maybe I just.
I'm telling you, Reindeer Games is one of the most watchable terrible movies ever.
Yeah, I know.
Like, it is not
I haven't
good.
Seen it in forever.
It has a dozen twists too many. It's got 6 plots too many.
Yeah.
But
it's funny.
It's fun to watch.
It's funny. I haven't seen it since it came out.
Oh,
but
wow.
I remember that you bring that up. I remember all these stupid fucking twists that happen. I mean, not stupid as in they're just stupid for stupid's sake, but like there's a ton of twists.
There are.
Yeah.
It's like the last 10
Somebody's
minutes has like,
It's kind of like I think the movie Heist does that too. The David Mamet Heist.
It does. I love that movie so much.
Oh,
But
I do
you're right.
too.
You're right. It does.
It's one of those where it's like, oh, okay. Oh, and Wild Things is another one that does that.
Yeah,
Yep.
Where it's like, oh, okay, we've kind of figured this out. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh my God. Those rants are so good. I'm going to forego my rant, and we can just go on to the next
well,
thing.
maybe it was good for another time.
Yes, yeah, it will be evergreen. I believe.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. It's time to talk about Mubi once again.
Movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get some weird sounds emanate from you every time we bring up Mubi.
It makes me happy.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff on there right now, of course.
Yes.
Right now there is the Ryan Reynolds Buried movie. It's
Oh, it's so good.
yeah.
Have you seen this?
I have.
Oh shit!
I mean, now I'm not ever going to watch it again just because the anxiety.
Yes, and Ryan Reynolds himself has said he suffers from anxiety.
Oh, really?
So
it
I
must have been
wonder
even
what
harder.
filming this was. I'm sure filming, they had it wide open spaces and made it look like it was all enclosed.
If it was Tom Cruise, he would have insisted being actually buried alive.
Absolutely. For certain. But Buried is one of those movies that would go along with Locke, right? It would.
Oh, yeah.
It's got that same kind of like there's one guy in one location trying to talk on a cell phone. And trying to get a problem solved, essentially. And in this one, he wakes up in a box or of some sort, and he finds he's got a cell phone and he's got a light, but he doesn't figure that out until way later. But he's got a lighter and he's got a cell phone. It's got Arabic writing on it. And so he's like, what the hell? And he finds out that he's been kidnapped by people in Iraq that are not part of the war or anything, but they're just enterprising criminals essentially who just want to get money, and they want $5 million and everything, and they think that he can get it from the embassy and everything. So there's a back and forth between him and the actual kidnappers, but there's also him frantically trying to call everybody he knows to try to get some help and everything. He calls his business, which Stephen Tobolowsky is the voice on the other end of the line that one. He's trying to call his wife, but his wife's not answering. He's trying to call all these different government places and everything. He has to call. I can't remember if he calls his wife's sister. I think that's what it is. He calls his wife's sister, and they're not on good terms. Oh. And so, like, she's like, because every time he goes in, he's immediately going into that panic mode. Like, I'm in a box, I'm in a blah, blah, blah. And they're like, whoa, slow down and everything. And how can you know? And at the same time, you feel for the people on the other end of the line because this is a weird call.
Yeah.
And so, he keeps calling all these people. He finally finds somebody at the State Department who's like helping him out and everything. They're calling back and forth and saying, we're looking for the signal, but the phone is cloned and all this. And there's all these little problems that come up. So it's a very tense movie. It's gotten mixed reviews over the years.
That's surprising because I watched it and I loved it. And then, I looked up later on, I saw it was kind of a mixed review kind of thing. And I was like, wow, I thought it was really great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Locke, but I thought it's really super tense and holds your attention. Ryan Reynolds does a great job.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and when you, this year, seeing Ryan Reynolds in 2 movies, I've seen him in Detective Pikachu, well, voice mainly, and then Hobbs and Shaw, he's in that.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. And it's, I know that ever since he did Van Wilder, which was his big, breakout and everything, people want him to do that every time. That's what Deadpool is all about. So he does this and everything. So it's really cool to see him like in a drama where he barely ever says any jokes at all.
Yeah.
And you say, oh, well, we can actually get this Ryan Reynolds from time to time.
Got some range.
Yeah.
Well, and you saw him in Mississippi Grind too, right?
Yeah. Mississippi Grind. He's very dramatic in that.
Was that him in Safe House?
Is that the Denzel? He might.
I think that's Ryan Reynolds. I like that movie a lot too.
I remember it coming out, but I don't remember much about it.
Yes, that's him.
All right, that's what I thought. He's not super funny in that either.
Yeah,
and I do enjoy seeing that more. What's funny is when he first came out. Well, he was on that 2 Girls, a Guy, and a Pizza Place show.
Yeah, I remember
with
that.
Nathan Fillion.
Yeah,
and then Van Wilder, and my buddy Josh was always like, man, he's just kind of doing that Jim Carrey thing.
Yeah.
And that we were worried because he was charming, but if he was never going to do anything more than faces, but he's grown into a lot more, both comedically and dramatically.
Yeah, and even in a movie like Just Friends, where it's like a sort of comedic and dramatic, and then what was the other one where he, I always forget about that one where he's like, telling the story of I think it's Abigail Breslin plays his daughter, and he's telling the story of who her mom is, and there's 3 different women it could be.
Oh, I never saw that.
That one is also pretty good too, and it's like this is the type of Ryan Reynolds it'd be nice to see more often. But I think ever since Deadpool, now he's going through that Van Wilder thing again, where it's like. But anyway, Buried, I'd say is a high recommend for a movie. there are some moments in that movie that are absurd, I think.
Oh, yeah?
But it's really good.
Yeah.
I got to check that out, man. I would say, it gave me some pause to just kind of like conceptually get into that. But I think I could probably just do it as kind of like you did, like watch it once and see what it's about.
Yeah, the parts that made me feel anxiety will keep me from going back to it too many times. But I think that's also sort of the point. Again, I've said this before. I think some movies, when they make you anxious, it's a sign they've done a really good job crafting that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That other movie was Definitely Maybe.
Definitely Maybe. Yeah. I watched just recently, because it just came out today, actually, a movie, a Brazilian movie called Two Irenes in English, but it's As Duas Irenes.
Nice. Good job.
The way that they pronounce it is like Irene or something like that. Yeah. Man, what
stupid Europeans always having to pronounce every syllable.
Or Brazilians, too.
Yeah.
Well, they're Portuguese, so yeah, it's basically the same thing. So this is Fabio Mieira that did this, and I had no idea what to expect. It's a coming-of-age story about a 13-year-old girl who has a complicated relationship with her father. You can imagine how many different ways that could go. It goes in a bunch of different ways that you would never, ever expect. It's actually billed in the movie description. It's billed as like a take of, in the tradition of Hitchcock and Jordan Peele's Us, like the study of duality and things like that.
Oh.
The self being somebody else. So there's two girls named Irene that don't know each other exist, basically. And so the primary Irene, I'm going to say Irene because Irene doesn't roll off the tongue, meets the other one. And who's, the primary one is this kind of like social shut-in. She's skinny. She doesn't get along really well. And the other one is a social butterfly. And these two personalities come together in a way that is just absolutely delightful. The performances here are fantastic, both of the Irenes and the father in particular, but all the supporting cast is fantastic. I don't want to give too much away about this movie because every surprise is a delight. The cinematography in this thing will blow you away. There's a shot of the primary Irene, is what I'll call her, in the bathtub. And it's not salacious or anything like that, but it's just absolutely mesmerizing the way that this was shot. And it's very important. It's early on in the movie. It's very important to the movie overall. But it's unlike what you would have seen in any other version of a girl in a bathtub. That's all I'll say about that. The other thing about this movie is that it does subvert expectations a lot. There's a little bit of a flirtatious thing going on between the two Irenes. They're exploring their sexuality. They're making out with boys and stuff like that. And the experienced Irene asks the inexperienced Irene, she's like, have you ever been kissed before? She says, no. And so they're in their bedroom, or her bedroom, and they turn around. She's like, you want to try? And I'm like, I was thinking, because it's a big buildup, and I was like, which way are we going to go with this? Like, it would be very much like this movie to subvert this whole thing and do something different. Or it would be kind of like this movie to make them make out a little bit. And it does something a little different than what I had even expected. Yeah. So this is totally a recommend. This is a very good movie.
Jim Carrey's good in it, too,
Jim
right?
Carrey and Ryan Reynolds show up as the two Ikes.
I was just making me, myself, and two Irenes.
Yeah, nice. But anyway, so this is on Mubi. Another movie that I would never have experienced whatsoever.
Right.
Had I not had this service. Mubi is fantastic, man. You got 30 movies every day, each day. One goes away, one new one shows up, and it's just fantastic. It's just you've heard us talk about it before. If you haven't heard us talk about it before, go get it now because it's awesome.
Where do they go?
They go to Mubi.com/Cinemasins. So MUBI.com/Cinemasins.
And get you what?
30 days free, Jeremy.
That's up to 60 freaking movies.
That's right.
For
That's
free.
Right. Yes, for free.
Grief. Do it.
Yeah. So you can experience right now, if you do it right now, you can experience that Buried movie, which I'm going to actually watch as soon as I get done with all this. You can watch the two Irenes. And there's a lot of like Dario Argento stuff on there. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff on there. So go to Mubi.com/Cinemasins check it. Do it today. Do it right now. Just pause the thing and go right now.
We're gonna try a different kind of segment today. We're gonna go over a person who is they're sort of their film career, and we're gonna kind of go quote unquote film career with our first one. But this person, this author, Stephen King, has had so many books adapted into movies, and with Dr. Sleep having been out for the last 3 days, we're going to go over some Stephen King stuff, and it is crazy how many of his books. I mean, he's written a ton of books, and almost that many have been turned into movies. Yeah,
I mean, it automatically, like, even when he does a collection of short stories, each one of those short stories will become a movie.
So let's go over some of the Stephen King works that have been turned into movies. Carrie is the first one.
Yes, and just to elaborate on this, I came up with this list. We're just focusing on films for this because I know there's a ton of people out there that love the Langoliers or the original Stan miniseries or the original It miniseries. We're keeping it just to movies because otherwise it would just be a sack of worms.
I mean, even just keeping it to movies, there's a lot of movies.
There's a lot of movies.
That's very true. Yeah. Carrie came out first. It was Brian De Palma directing. And Carrie is really good, really effective movie. I don't know if I consider it horror though. It's weird that way.
Weird. Yeah.
I think the more horror is with Carrie and her mom than anything.
That's true.
Than anything that she does, which is more sci-fi type stuff that goes on.
Her the horror that comes from her abilities is justified.
Yeah.
Like, by the end of that movie, you want her to burn those motherfuckers to the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't need no water. Let the motherfucker burn.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, from all the experiences between her mother and between all the bullying and the Travoltas and all that bullshit.
The Travoltas.
You want her to, like, light those motherfuckers up.
Yeah. That scene at the end in that prom or whatever. Is it prom? It's that scene with him, De Palma, doing his most De Palmiest stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The split screens galore and all the stuff is just thrilling.
Yeah.
It's so thrilling to watch that. And yeah, I mean, the rest of the movie is pretty good too. It's got a good solid foundation to it. But once it's built up to this, you know, this moment, and that's the one that's what you'll remember.
Now we're going to talk about this other one in a second, but growing up, I bet you're surprised to learn that I never watched a lot of Stephen King movies.
Really? Yeah.
But I always got Carrie and Firestarter confused
Very
because
much.
at the end of Carrie, there's a huge ass fire.
Right.
I mean, they're completely different stories, but they're both young girls.
Yes.
Setting fire to
And
shit.
from my perspective, I'll go ahead and out myself. To date, I have never read a Stephen King book.
Really?
Because I generally I have not historically liked horror, whether it's movies or anything else. And so, despite I know his greatness, I know he's awesome, I just haven't personally read the stuff. Don't hate me.
Even the non-horror, The Body and Green Mile and stuff
No,
like
I haven't
that
read
and
any of
stuff.
that either. No. I mean, I don't read very much anymore.
Who does? Except for the people who read the Ables.
Only losers read books.
Except Jonathan.
That's true.
No, I think there's a story about how Stephen King watched this movie, I guess during the premiere or whatever, and turned to his wife and said, "This movie's going to make so much fucking money." He
liked it, right?
He really liked how this was adapted and everything. They have in subsequent years, they have made, I think, a TV version of Carrie, which is not very good. Then there was the Chloe Grace Moretz version, which was like, okay. Carrie's supposed to be this girl that's unpopular, I guess, because she's weird and whatever, but maybe not as attractive as the others or whatever. Chloe Grace Moretz strike you as a girl that would be unpopular?
Yeah, I mean, that's why they glamorized it, and that's why it's partially why it misses the mark. She's perfectly fine in it because she's a good actress.
Yeah.
But Sissy Spacek was perfect for this role because she's objectively like a very beautiful woman, but she also, at that point in her career, had kind of like the attributes or embodied that character. You know, shy and kind of thin and pale and things like that. And she was what you would see on the page. I read this a long time ago, but this translated really, really beautifully from the book to the screen. I can see why he liked it so much.
Yeah. We have a lot to go through, so let's head on to The Shining.
The Shinning.
The Shinning.
The Shinning.
Yeah.
Yeah, just did a Sins video.
We did a Sins video on
last
this.
week. It was so awesome. That was one of the most fun times I've had sending a movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's one of those that you go into going, oh, man, I'll probably only get like 20 out of this. And then you end up being, oh, no, there's a little bit more.
You can have a little more fun, too.
Yeah.
What is really interesting to me is that Stephen King, at this point, in 1980, he's on the map, and he's a popular writer, but he's not the Stephen King.
Right.
But his first two movies are Brian De Palma and Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Seriously. And he hated this one.
Yeah.
He still hates this one.
Yeah. Kubrick changed some things fundamentally from the book that King didn't like. I think Jack Torrance is supposed to be like an ex-jock or something like that. He's got a trophy wife and everything. And meanwhile, in this, Jack Nicholson, who doesn't strike you as former athlete or anything like that, and you have a Shelley Duvall, who is another. I mean, you wouldn't call her glamorous either.
Yeah, she's unusual, kind of funny. Like
yeah. Just in a usual sort of way. Yeah, maybe.
No, she is very. I mean, I think that's part of the reason that she was cast is that she had a different look than some glamorous Hollywood babe.
Yes. I think people tend to take that as an insult, and that's not what we're trying to say. Is that there's no way around it.
True,
but that's what he did with it, and he took out because in the book he's got the topiary animals that come to life at the end. Kubrick apparently didn't like it, and none of the people who were on the film liked that part of the book for some reason. I guess it's because it was too fantastical. I have the personal belief that they just didn't want to do it because the special effects wouldn't have been good. And I don't really. I mean, with all the fantastical stuff that's in the movie.
Like the ghost furry blowjob.
I mean, yeah. Come on. You would think that that having some animals come to life at the end would be perfect to go along with everything, but no, they didn't like that apparently. Anyway, The Shining. I know that you like this.
Oh, I love it.
This is maybe even after seeing it, I think this is one of the most perfect movies I've ever seen.
It's so weird because I never watched it. I never watched it until one random Hollywood 27 weekend shift where all the bosses were gone and fucking Ryan and Corey put it up on the TV in the office.
Oh, really?
And it was like by 20 minutes later, there were like all 6 managers working in the building were in the office watching The Shining. And that was the first time I'd really ever paid it any attention. And thank God I started with that opening up the mountain because that was everything I needed to hook me and tell me what to expect and how deliberate the film was going to be in a good way. It's not anything like Alien, but I can't pick between the two of them when I choose my favorite horror movie, even though they're completely different type of films.
They are, and I can sympathize with Stephen King as to why he would not like this movie. Now, if I were him, it's like with Bob Dylan and Jimi Hendrix. Bob Dylan has since basically said Jimi Hendrix owns All Along the Watchtower. Trent Reznor has said Johnny Cash basically owns Hurt now. It's not my version. It's not anywhere near what I did. It's not my vision. But that's the thing. Stephen King, to my knowledge, has never really done that with The Shining. The Shining is a beautiful piece of art. It is not the book The Shining.
Yeah.
It borrows heavily from it. But I wish he would acknowledge that it is its own art and perfect in its own way.
I think that people liked it and consider it so good is the only reason why he's been so vocal about it over
Must
the years.
be, yeah.
Because think about all the adaptations
that
have been horrible from his work that he doesn't talk about at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like to me that he was put aback by how well it was received.
Yeah.
And maybe a tinge of jealousy in there where he was like, I wrote this great book and now everybody loves the movie and it's not my book. And why is, why is that? That type of like of an insecurity or something.
It's like
maybe.
in that thing you do when the new drummer plays the song too fast, and Jonathan Sketch is like, "This isn't my song, but people are loving it."
Yeah, exactly.
That's total. You just compared The Shining to the thing.
Yes, I did. That's right.
And it was a good comparison.
That's
it
right.
was.
So we somehow have a Stephen King to Stanley Kubrick to Tom Hanks comparison there. But yeah, The Shining is it's a good one.
That's a
good movie. Then we have Creepshow.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen this.
You haven't seen this one? Now, I think you would like Creepshow.
Okay.
This is not like a horror movie, really.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's an anthology type of thing.
Twilight Zone-y kind of thing?
Twilight Zone-y kind of thing.
Okay.
There's several different segments. Hal Holbrook is in one where he's contemplating killing his wife. And there's one with Leslie Nielsen in it and Ted Danson.
Yeah.
Where
I forgot Ted Danson was in there.
where Leslie Nielsen has this was trying to get revenge on him for sleeping with his wife and burying him in the sand in a beach or whatever.
Yeah.
There's like a couple others. What are the other? There's a monster under the stairwell. That's the Hal Holbrook one though.
And they're all based on short stories that King wrote?
This is a screenplay that King wrote for a movie that George A. Romero directed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
There's like 7 vignettes.
Yeah. There's one with King himself as a farmer, where a meteor hits. It goes back and forth between this one. But there's a meteor that hits his farm or whatever, and he comes out. And King, back in those days, man, he's really like hamming this shit up.
Yes.
And there's a point where he's like, where he goes down and he inspects the meteor and everything, and he has some goo on his hand. And he's like, meteor shit. And the one with Stephen King's called The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill. Something to Tide You Over is the Leslie Nielsen one. The Crate's the Hal Holbrook one. They're Creeping Up on You is the hermetically sealed apartment.
Oh yeah,
that one where I think there's the cockroaches or the bugs or something come in. So it's an anthology series. It's very fun. It's one of those like if you don't like horror. This doesn't have that much. It's almost funny in a way. It can be dramatic at times, but mostly it's kind of like funny horror type of movie. You know, I guess there's a couple of scare moments, but not like, it's not your typical whatever. I highly enjoy Creepshow.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, is that the thing that just got remade on Shudder?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they're doing, I guess what Jonathan was saying, they're coming out with episodes that have 2 stories in them.
Oh, okay.
So they're still anthology, but I guess that's how they're doing it. They're giving you 2 at once.
All right.
Something like that. But yeah, Creepshow's good. Now, here's one I haven't seen. Cujo.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's about a killer dog, a big old St. Bernard that's all sweet and cuddly until he gets bit by like a evil rabbit or something. It is a rabbit. I don't know how it turns evil, but then he turns evil.
Banicula?
Yeah. Look at the bones. He turns into like an evil monster, and he traps the family, I think, in their car when it's like super hot and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some tense moments in here, but it's also very, very 1983. Or 1982 or 3. I think it was 3.
They made a shameless ripoff of this like 10 years later, I think, called Man's Best Friend.
Oh, I remember that. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this kind of thing is ripe for, Pet Sematary was kind of had some of these elements, too, where, like, beloved family pet turns evil and wants to kill you type of thing.
Old Yeller did that, too.
That's true. Yeah.
Where are you going with that, gun? I never saw Cujo, but this one has less to do with Stephen King and more to do with my gripping fear of dogs that I had until I was 23, and I lived with a Newfoundland and a Mastiff, a bull Mastiff.
Holy fuck.
And
they're bigger than you.
They were, the Newfoundland was bigger than Chris. But they were the most lovable dogs.
Yeah.
Up until then, probably PTSD from my paper route at age 9, being chased by dogs. Like, dogs terrified me. I was always afraid every single one of them was going to go Cujo at any moment and bite my hand. But now I don't. Now I like dogs. I'm going to get a dog soon, but I still have never seen Cujo.
Yeah, I mean it's not one of the essential ones. It's an interesting.
I think I saw the one with the car.
It's almost not Duel.
Christine?
Maximum Overdrive. Yeah, Christine. Yeah,
Christine.
There's so many of these. But I think it's more known for being a cultural reference, like you saying somebody's going to go Cujo on me or whatever, than it is as an actual movie.
Yeah.
Right. Then The Dead Zone, Christopher Walken.
This movie's awesome.
Yeah, this is really good.
This is David Cronenberg.
Oh.
But it doesn't have any body horror, really, that I can remember.
I don't remember there. I think this is a pretty straightforward adaptation of the book, and I've read the book and seen this movie, but they've been a long time ago for both, so I don't remember everything, but I know that Walken plays a character who can touch people and know that he
does that total exaggeration,
and either I guess know what has happened in the past or knows what's going to happen.
Knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. And then they made this into a TV series later with Anthony Michael Hall. But
pretty well regarded, I think.
Yeah, I think it was.
I never saw
it was well regarded. But this is a great movie.
Yes.
Dead Zone. Yeah,
Yes.
Christopher
So it's like
Walken.
the reverse of Unbreakable, where he touches them and sees the bad they done. Now this guy can touch them and see what's going to happen in the future.
I think so. It was hilariously parodied, by the way, in a Saturday Night Live where Christopher Walken was hosting. He was at like a Christmas party or something like that, and he touches somebody, and he has that whole affectation. He's like, "Bill, I just had this vision." That's my Christopher Walken. I just had this vision. You're going to eat some corn nuts. And he goes over and eats some corn nuts. And it's all these super mundane shit. And after a while, they're just like, all right.
Yeah.
It's really funny though.
But yeah, I remember that being a good movie. Then Christine,
There
Killer
she-
Car.
John Carpenter.
Yeah, and way before Rubber, but kind of a
that's true.
spiritual sibling. there.
This was LeBaron? What was Christine?
If it was a LeBaron, I thought it was like a 57
No,
Chevy.
it's a Plymouth Fury. That's what it was. No, this has got some creepiness to it. I actually kind of like this movie.
All right.
You did see this one?
I saw it, but I don't remember anything about
Probably
it.
more for John Carpenter than it was for A Killer Car, right?
Whenever I saw it, I wouldn't have known who the fuck John Carpenter was.
Yeah. This is another one of those mid-'80s, all right, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one either. I have seen Children of the Corn.
Yeah, now that's got some creepy shit.
Yeah, it does. It has, God, who's the dude who's in a lot of stuff? Who's in The Burbs, too, that's in this?
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Courtney Gaines is the guy, the redheaded dude. That's in this.
Malachi.
He plays Malachi.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is your children going evil and bad and
What I love about Stephen King is how he's able to take something where you wouldn't think there's any way that this would be scary. Like a dog, I understand with your experience, you had traumatic stuff, but typically dogs are just, especially like a Saint Bernard, just cuddly and happy and all that stuff. A car. Like a bunch of kids, doesn't seem to pose a threat whatsoever.
A red balloon.
Yeah, see, this is one that I'm surprised you haven't seen like this and its 700 sequels.
I saw Village of the Damned. Is it similar?
It's similar, yeah. I think I'm trying to think if Village of the Damned had the same philosophy. This one is anybody over 18 needs to be killed by the kids. I don't know about Village of the Damned. I know that they killed the parents in that, but or killed adults in that, but I can't remember if it was anybody over 18 or if it was whatever. But yeah,
it's funny that you've seen Village of the Damned.
Well, I only watched it because I built that print and I had to watch it.
Children of the Corn has, I think, maybe 7 sequels.
Maybe I should get into this.
Maybe you should.
Are there any hot, sexy co-eds?
Oh, see,
So no.
what I was going to say is I haven't gotten past 4.
Have you seen 4?
I've seen 4.
I think I've seen 4.
I saw 4 for a stupid ass reason because I heard some girl I liked saw it once, so I watched it. But then there were some others afterwards, and they could very well have sexy co-eds.
Why not? The sexy co-eds, beach party, everything's happy, and then suddenly kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the Jaws music.
All right.
That makes sense.
I don't remember too much about that first one though, but I do remember it being kind of freaky.
Oh, I've seen it. I used to watch it every other Halloween or something like that. And I saw it probably most recently a few years ago. And it holds up, man, because just the way that they frame everything, especially just you don't know what the kids are up to until you do. And then there's like this supernatural entity that's overseeing the whole thing. And just kind of like the psychological horror behind it is very effective.
Yeah. Then, yes, Firestarter, which I have not seen either. Drew Barrymore.
I'm a fire starter.
Drew Barrymore cashing in that E.T. fame with Firestarter.
This is David Keith plays her dad. Who also has some sort of ability, like the whole family has ability. And this is the first time, at least in the movies, where they refer to the shop. You familiar with the shop at all? It's a Stephen King thing that he puts in probably like 5 or 6 of his books, where it's a government entity, like where they're interested in specifically in paranormal or like supernatural abilities. Basically like Viola Davis from Suicide Squad. She like The shop wants to kidnap Drew Barrymore's character and like harness her abilities as a pyrokinesis or whatever it is, like as a weapon, of course. Kind of like a Stranger Things setup long before Stranger Things. This movie's pretty good though.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is 84, 85?
I think it's 84.
Yeah, so it's 84, so yeah, right after E.T., a couple years after E.T., right?
Yeah.
She might even have been the highest paid person in this movie.
It's possible.
Maybe so. Well, Martin Sheen is in it, and George C. Scott is in there too. They play the villains. Martin Sheen plays like the shop guy.
The shop guy.
Yeah.
Marv the shop guy.
Marv the shop guy. Lol.
And then there is Cat's Eye, which also has Drew Barrymore in it.
Does it really?
Yeah. I haven't seen it, but it's got Drew Barrymore in it. It's got James Woods. But it's apparently it's 3 tales of suspense.
I've seen this movie,
and it's linked by a stray cat.
It is, and I remember watching it, thinking the cat had very little to do with any of the movie. But I remember the 3 vignettes. This would have been on non-cable television, so edited to fucking back. So I don't even know if I saw what was intended.
To fucking back.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been on like,
hey, Bill, can you edit this to fuck and then turn around and go back?
You just walk into his room and he's got like film hanging off of his mouth and shit.
I'm editing it to fuck, Gene.
But yeah, because I'm a cat guy, right? I always had cats growing up. I watched it for cat action, and there wasn't much cat action.
Is that the reason that you watched Cat People?
No, I haven't seen Cat People.
Isn't that the one where Chica is naked the whole time?
Yes, Nastasha Kinski is naked probably 90% of that movie.
What is this movie?
Cat People.
Sexy co-eds?
Yeah. Nastasha Kinski.
All right.
She's hot.
Okay, after this podcast, you watch Buried. I'm going to watch Cat People.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see the whole movie, strangely enough. But it was one of those things where it came on and I was like, oh, Nastasha Kinski, she's pretty. Oh, she's naked. Okay, awesome. And then you watch it for about 30 minutes and like, hey, this movie kind of sucks. And you like turn it over to something else, and then you come back and like, whoa, she's still naked. Yeah, that was what, 1982. Yeah, Paul Schrader, 6.1 on IMDb.
There you go.
Silver Bullet. Is his werewolf story, I think.
Did you ever see this?
I did a long time ago.
Listen to this cast. So 1985, Corey Haim,
Yeah.
Gary Busey,
All right.
Everett McGill, Terry O'Quinn, and Lawrence Tierney.
Oh, wow.
Wow. All right.
That's like just an incredible 80s cast.
Terry
right
O'Quinn,
there.
known as Locke on Lost
That's
for
right.
most people.
That's right. Or the stepfather. Wasn't he in The Stepfather?
Oh, I think he was.
Yeah,
I think
he
he was in Stepfather. But yeah, this is his werewolf story. I guess it's based on the novella Cycle of the Werewolf. He also wrote the screenplay for it and everything. But yeah, your typical werewolf story, and they have to get the silver bullet to kill it.
Roll credits.
Roll credits. Yeah. I don't remember too much about it. Maximum Overdrive.
Woo!
Yeah.
Woo!
This is where
you can smell the drugs coming off of this.
This is not just one car, guys. This is all the cars and machines in general coming to life. It's like Tremors with cars.
Yes. Yes.
It's like car versus human.
Yes. Stephen King, I believe, self-admittedly, he wrote and directed this movie, was on massive amounts of drugs.
He wrote it within 24 hours. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Oh my God, cars are alive. Machines are alive. Let's put Emilio Estevez in this immediately.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
no, this movie is butt.
I haven't seen it all the way through. It was on actually during the Halloween and everything.
Oh yeah,
I saw a good chunk of it, and I was like, wow, yeah,
it's bad.
yeah.
Conversely, the next one.
Stand By Me.
Oh. Yes.
Based on The Body.
Oh yeah.
The Body.
I will say I can't watch that fucking puking scene.
Oh no.
Like I have to look away.
It's awful.
It's so graphic.
Yes, it is.
And I get that somewhere between horror movie and this is a story about a bunch of kids, teens, boys who would tell stories like that. I get it, but it's one of the best movies I think I've ever seen in my life, and I hate whenever a movie like that has an entire scene that I have to fast forward.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Can you do the leech scene?
Yeah, that's because I don't. I never had a leach.
You never had it.
Whereas I've thrown up plenty. I've been around people who were throwing up plenty.
I think I may have had a leech once.
Isn't is it Will Wheaton is the?
Yeah, Will Wheaton. You got Jerry O'Connell.
Will Wheaton gets a penis leech.
That's what. Yeah, he has it right on the willy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Corey Feldman. And John Cusack's in this movie for a hot second.
Yeah, he's a brother of Will Wheaton.
And then Kiefer's the bad guy.
Kiefer's the bad guy. The bad guy, I guess. Yeah.
Don't they smash mailboxes with a baseball bat?
I think they do.
Yeah, so I thought.
I think that's right.
So Rob Reiner had yet to do When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah, he
had done Spinal Tap.
This is Spinal Tap.
Is that all he had done before
think so.
now?
Think so. I mean, obviously, other than his acting career, All in the Family and all
Yeah,
that. But
yeah.
Directing wise, we went through this at one point.
God.
I think this might be his second big feature. Let's look.
It's funny because like Carrie in The Shining, so Carrie gets the tone of the book right and gets the movie right. The Shining gets the tone of the book wrong but gets the movie right. And then like all these other things, like they're okay at best. And then Rob Reiner like fucking nails this one.
Yeah.
He did a movie called The Sure Thing with John Cusack just before.
I remember
this. But yeah, Stand By Me is one of those all-time greats. I think we debated about this one being in the in our brackets, didn't we? Didn't we have this for a while in our brackets?
I think so.
Didn't it get to like the Sweet 16
Yeah, I
or
believe
something
so.
like that?
I believe so.
But Stand By Me is so good. It's a simple story. I mean, they hear about a body, they go and have an adventure where they basically walk to that body, trying to find the body or whatever, and they have to run into all these different things on the way. They have to deal with the junkyard dog, and they have to they're on railroad tracks when the train's coming at one point, and
this is the first non-horror Stephen King adaptation, at least
I think so,
movie-wise.
Yeah. And
it was almost a surprise when I saw it for the first time because I knew it was a Stephen King thing. So I expected some sort of horror element, especially because they were going after a dead body or whatever. No, it's just straight up coming of age story.
Yeah, and it's got great like little scenes aside from the throwing up one, but the one where they're around the campfire, essentially asking what the fuck Grimace is, and everything. That's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, the Family Guy did some funny thing with this at one point too, where they were like, where instead of at the end there's that coda where it's like. This guy went to the Vietnam War later and all that. And instead of doing what the characters did, they talked about the actors. It's like, this guy grew up to marry Rebecca Romaine. Can you believe that? The fat kid from Stand By Me is married to Rebecca Romaine.
That's great. Holy shit.
Stand By Me, if there's any, one of our big recommends would be in this
Hell
list.
yeah.
Creepshow 2. Never seen Creepshow 2.
It gets terrible reviews.
Yeah.
I never saw it either, but it's a similar anthology thing based on some of his short stories.
Yeah. And then we have The Running Man, which I fucking love.
Yeah, man.
This is hook up the 80s to my goddamn veins.
I'm a little more Total Recall than this movie, but they're both there. They're both right there. Like, yeah, it's 80s as fuck.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh my God. I love it so much. This 80s excess fucking Schwarzenegger at the top of his, this is not the height of his popularity, but it's getting there. It's right there where he's about to become just this thing, this entity, this brand or whatever. I guess he's already gotten to the brand part, but my God. But yeah, game show where they put criminals inside like a death fucking thing. And like there's all these gladiators that kill these criminals. And of course, people eat this up because, hey, those are filthy criminals.
Yeah.
And they deserve this type of shit and everything. I am shocked we have not gotten to Running Man stage in real life.
That's true. Yeah.
I am shocked.
Me too.
So of course we find out if you're going to have a game show this corrupt, that's also the idea that the people inside that are being thrown into these arenas may be innocent and they may do anything they can to change the story, which is what happens in this. Is Ben Richards is tells his commander he's not going to bomb this group of people down there because they're fighting for food and all this. And they tell him to do it anyway because they're just filthy vermin down there. And then so they have to wrest control of the helicopter from him, and they actually go through with the bombing without him, but then he gets blamed for it.
Yeah.
And then he gets thrown into this arena, and then of course it's Schwarzenegger because he
beats ass.
Yeah, because he's going to beat the fuck out of everybody.
Jesse the Body Ventura's in this.
Yeah.
This was set in 2017, by the way.
Literally, I forgot about that.
It's not that far off.
It's not that far.
When it came out, it was a ridiculous over-exaggeration.
Yeah.
But if you take that, like, obstacle course bullshit they do now with the, what do they call that?
American Ninja Warrior?
Yes. You cross that with the old Saturday morning tennis ball cannon show with the wrestlers.
Oh, American Gladiators.
American Gladiators. we almost got there. It's
just replace the tennis balls with actual bullets.
We're not doing death quite yet.
No,
but
we'd later get a video game called Smash TV, which had some of this element in it.
Really?
Do you ever play Smash TV?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think so.
It was a game that I believe Williams came out with that had two joysticks. And one controlled where you went and one controlled where you fired.
Oh.
And so you would go into this this room, and there'd be 4 doors, and there would just be all these enemies that would come out. And while you're shooting all these enemies, prizes would come on and all that. And like there was if you enjoy RoboCop, where's that one dude who's like, I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah.
There's an announcer in there that's like, I'd buy that for $1 and all that. So there's like some weird like connections to movies and Smash TV. It was a hard as fuck game too.
You almost only exclusively played games that were hard as fuck.
Yeah, I always wanted that challenge.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, But yeah, The Running Man, hook it up to my goddamn veins.
Yeah,
man.
it's delightful.
Yeah, I think generally it's an average movie probably, but especially if you're around our age,
it's an above average dance though.
Yeah.
Run a man on that beat. Run a man on that beat.
The first Pet Cemetery came out in 1989.
No way was I ever going to watch this shit.
Oh, well, you were right. This movie sucks. Mary Lambert directed it, and she was a music video director, I think. Knew the Ramones, who did the theme song for it. And this movie, Fred Gwynn is really, really good in this, even though he's got this crazy accent.
Oh, yeah.
This movie, as bad as it is much better than the remake that came out later on. Even though Jason Clarke is much better than this poor bastard who's playing the main character in this version. This is just a slightly better movie. I don't watch either of them. It's not very good.
Yeah, I told you about when I was in 7th grade, we somehow got to see this movie in school during Halloween, right?
That's messed up.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have any like it definitely doesn't have any sex.
There was a point where I remember this. Like, should we or shouldn't we were voting on it or whatever, and trying to tell the teachers it's okay. I don't know how. I mean, seriously, there's no fucking way this shit should ever happen. But like, somebody said, I think they say fuck once and that's it, or something like that, and everything else is just violence or whatever. And I think as long as we got permission slips, we could watch it.
Wow.
And we got it from our parents.
And that's the state of the American education system 35 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine where it is today.
Yeah. No kidding.
Now they're watching porns.
Now,
Yeah.
why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Got a sex ed? Well, here's how you do it.
You'll be watching this video. I'll be over smoking a cigarette.
Then Graveyard Shift, which I think was 1990.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this at the old Bellevue 3. Cineplex, which is now there's no theater. Is there a theater? There's not a theater there anymore.
Not at that location.
That the one that flooded?
Don't know.
No,
That was the Bellevue 12 that flooded.
12, yeah.
The Bellevue 3 turned into it was a Carmike, and it turned into like an 8 screen at one point.
Oh, was that the same? Well, yeah, that one is no longer existing. Either.
Yeah, and then we actually saw a movie there.
We did.
That was that one where you guys were standing in line, and I walked up and I was like, "All right, guys, I'm gonna sit over here for a bit." But I can't remember what movie we saw there.
Fantastic Beasts.
Oh, you remember the movie?
Do.
Wow.
I do.
But
'Cause it sucked.
yes, it did. Graveyard Shift's not good either.
No, this movie it's got Brad your boy Dorff. Yeah. He's in there, and that's the only thing I remember. He's like an exterminator, aren't there? Oh, there's rats. There's a bunch of rats. Yeah. Fuck this movie.
Yeah. Why'd they even make this?
Yeah.
Then a really good one, Misery. Rob Reiner back again.
I know. It's like he and Frank Darabont somehow like tap into a Stephen King consciousness and just make it happen.
I've read this book and watched this movie, and they're both excellent. And in fact, even some of the stuff they cut out of the book, I don't really mind that they cut out of the book. Even though there's one thing in the book that I wish they had done a little bit more. You remember in the book that he's writing that story for her, and he's like, I don't think does he end up doing that in the movie, like that.
I think
he writes the story, but there's a plot point that he adds in there. He's like, I don't think I can bring this character back that she loves so much and everything. And he starts thinking about like, oh, there's this certain kind of bee that stings you, and and like it makes a body look dead and all that. Well, what if I just made this character that she loves be stung by this bee and I could bring him back? Whatever. I don't think that's in the movie, but the movie is fantastic.
You've seen this, right?
Huh?
You've seen this, right?
Yeah, I just watched about 20 minutes of it 2 days ago, too. This put Kathy Bates on the map for me.
Indeed.
And I don't know if that was the case for everyone.
I think for most people.
Because after that, she was pretty much everywhere. That fried green tomatoes. But James Caan is fine. He's great. But she is the reason to watch this movie.
Yeah.
She flips that switch between rage and kindness so quickly but seamlessly. Like when she spills the soup on the bed, because she's screaming at him, then she sees the thing and she starts apologizing. It's like, that's creepier than if she was just screaming the whole time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. She won the Oscar for this.
And it's the only Oscar ever to be given to a Stephen King adaptation.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
As of now, hit chapter 2. You never know.
This is one of many. Stephen King has a writer as the
kidding, man.
But you have, he's driving along some icy road and he gets, into a wreck and she saves him and she just happens to be his number one fan and then is taking care of him, but basically saying, you need to write a new story for me or else you're not getting out of this shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right, because the movie sets up to where she's just taking care of him. Like he's a wreck, like a literal wreck after he has the accident. And you're like, oh, well, that's cool. I mean, if he didn't know anything about the movie, like it's set up to where like, oh, that's cool. She's helping him out. And then like the switch flips and fucking shit goes down.
And it has that scene where she takes the like sledgehammer or whatever it is. That's one of the most like, tense moments you'll ever see in a movie.
So the hobbling scene, if my memory serves, you saw this recently. So there's a little bit of sound, but it's basically, obviously it doesn't show any of that.
I think you see something briefly.
Do you really?
I didn't watch that scene.
Mostly, all I remember is the last time I watched it was her swinging, and then it cut to James Caan's face just going, ah!
Yeah, I think there's...
And that's all you need. Now, I mean, yeah, there may be a quick cut
I
to
remember, but maybe it could be that's how effective the movie is. I think I remember seeing just the slightest, like they take a split second where you see it hit.
Whatever it is, man, it will make you fucking squirm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told you about how this is also in middle school. You'll wonder what the fuck middle school like I was going to. Me and a buddy, we were supposed to do some sort of like adaptation of a scene from a book that we'd read, and we did Misery, and I brought an axe to school. And nobody...
You'd be arrested today.
I know, and nobody knew that I'd brought this axe, and except for my buddy. I was like, we're going to have the axe. Well, why wouldn't we have the axe? And because I think in the book it's an axe. In the movie, I think they changed
It's a sledgehammer.
It's a sledgehammer. Yeah. So. Yeah, that we're doing that scene, that for the best scene and everything, and pull out the axe, and the strobe light comes on, and all sorts of shit.
Oh my God.
And people, there were audible screams in the fucking room when we did it, and then they afterwards got a talking to.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I was going to say that should have ended with a good grade and a scolding.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. Then we have the Lawnmower Man, which apparently King has tried to disown.
Yeah, they originally, so this was 1992, and they originally titled it Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man because it's based off of one of his short stories. And he sued. He found it so objectionable that he sued to get his name off of it.
Wow.
Successfully.
Well, good for him. He could afford it, I guess.
Have you seen this movie?
Is this the one with Jeff Fahey?
This is the one with Jeff Fahey, yeah,
I have
and
seen
Pierce
it.
Brosnan.
I have seen it, but it was probably 25 years ago.
I saw this in theaters.
Oh,
I remember it sucking ass.
Yeah, I think at 15 when I saw this, I thought this was kind of cool because it was, I think it was virtual reality and shit was in this at all, or
a little bit. It was more like mind control and manipulation.
I don't know. I think I remember thinking the technology in this was cool, so I was kind of on board with it. And also when you're 15 and you haven't been seeing R-rated movies, it's like, oh, well, this is good by default because I never get to see them.
That's true. No, this is another one that involves the shop. And yeah, they have some cyber sex, some cyber boogie.
Nice.
Brett Leonard, who
That's you with your computer.
Yeah. Brett Leonard, who did Virtuosity later.
So he likes to tinker with the tech.
Yeah, he does.
He's a tech tinkerer.
He's a tech tinkerer. But I would imagine if I watched it today, I would be like, what a piece of turd.
They made another one.
This is piece of
Oh,
turd.
that's right.
They made a Lawnmower Man too. So
Oh, wow.
must be an audience.
Wasn't Denzel in that?
No, that's Virtuosity, which I want to watch now.
Yeah,
right.
it's like suddenly want to watch this movie. The Dark Half. I actually read this book. I didn't see the movie though. I don't think this was 93.
I really like this movie.
Yeah?
I like the concept of this, where like
This is another writer. Stephen King
he's
writer.
a writer, and like his version of himself on the page comes to life and tries to fuck with the shit and all that stuff.
Timothy Hutton.
Yep.
And George A. Romero directed this as well.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there's a possibility I saw this, but I don't remember it at all. But yeah, what was the story again?
So yeah, he's writing a version of himself as the protagonist of his story, who goes, it's like a Jack Reacher type of thing. He's a serialized character, and eventually, like, he decides he's going to kill him off, but the character has other ideas.
Right.
He's the dark half of Timothy Hutton. And he tries to come back and like kill his family.
And then later they made it into Stranger Than Fiction.
Yeah.
or that aha video.
Yeah, the aha video. Needful Things, which I actually watched for the first time yesterday.
What?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Look at his anticipation.
Because I haven't seen it probably since like late 90s,
Okay.
early 2000s.
Well,
and I loved it then, but I bet it doesn't hold up.
Take this with a grain of salt. I I am instantly like wrapped like a warm blanket whenever I see a movie from 1993.
Yeah.
There's something. I was 16. I was working in movie theaters. Everything about the way film looks gets me back into that day and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, it doesn't matter if you suck. I love you. I would say this is a fun movie.
Yeah. It's a fun story. Yeah.
Max von Sydow is very, very fun.
Yeah.
Ed Harris is taking this shit way too seriously.
I can totally see that.
Oh my God. So Needful Things is about this small town, Castle Rock.
Yep.
Which this guy Max von Sydow, who plays somebody named Gaunt, something like that. Nothing like Munt or Muntz. Leland Gost.
Yes.
And he comes into town and opens up this shop called Needful Things. And so the first person who walks in is this kid who he asks him, "What do you want?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know, like really, well, Mickey Mantle." And they go, "Well, Mickey Mantle." And somehow, some way, he's able to make it seem like he was at a game that Mickey Mantle was playing, and that he signed a baseball card for him and all this other stuff. And, you know, Max von Sydow comes out and he's like, "Here's the card, 1956 Mickey Mantle," and everything. What would you do for that? And so it starts off, you know, oh, he's only got 95 cents. Well, if you do play a little trick for me, nobody will know that you did it.
It's like the red paperclip game.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Maybe.
Guy starts at the red paperclip and ends up making a series of trades. To
Oh,
where
and
he
it
gets
gets a house.
Yeah, I think it ends up with a house.
Yeah. He got into that famous.
Yeah.
For a bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember that. That was a long time. That was
That was pre-Cinemasins.
Yeah.
That was like 2006, something like that.
Yeah. But turns out that he, the kid ends up getting a whole bunch of like mud and turkey shit and everything, and like throws it up against this like farmer and his wife's laundry that's hanging outside. She thinks that it's somebody else that did it, that it's Amanda Plummer, who she hates for some reason, which I don't know if I ever quite got the reasoning behind that.
She hated Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. This is pre-Pulp Fiction, Amanda Plummer.
Yeah.
But I know that Amanda Plummer's past is that she used to be married and she killed her husband for being abusive or something, or it's at least implied. So maybe there's a I didn't get that connection when I watched it, but she thinks it's her. So then she threatens to kill Amanda Plummer's dog. And so like, there's this weird, like, you know, spiraling snowball type of thing going on. People go into the shop. They want something. He gives it to them only if they do some sort of trick for him. It starts creating chaos in the town, and there's all sorts of shit just going on. JT Walsh plays like a really fucked up,
he's a scuzzball.
He's an absolutely just like, he's just there's no redeeming qualities to him at all. He's a guy who's like gambling the town's money away and all this stuff. But yeah, there's a point where Ed Harris at the end of this, because he plays a cop, and he's just moved there from Vermont. No, it was Pittsburgh. He's moved there from Pittsburgh, and he's fallen in love with Bonnie Bedelia, and they're about to get married. And of course, there's stuff with Bonnie Bedelia. She's got arthritis. It's like she's trying to find a cure for that, or whatever.
Well, maybe he can just get with her sister Amelia.
Oh yeah, Amelia Bedelia for sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Not everything I think of should come out of my mouth.
Yeah. There's a scene though towards the end where town is going under fucking chaos. It's like everybody's looting and sorts of shit. And there's a point where like the Catholic priest and the Baptist pastor guy are about to get into some thick throwdown. And the guy pulls a gun on him, and he's like, "No, nobody's gonna get killed, blah blah blah, everybody needs to stop." And he's just like going on this big like, I guess you would do this, but he's like, you're almost like the way the tone of this movie is, you're like, dude, calm down.
Yeah, this I can imagine that it doesn't hold up all that great, but like just the story, and like you from that era, like it's just kind of like a cozy thing.
Yeah, man.
And Max von Sydow, I remember being really creepy and just manipulative and shit like that in there. And he's essentially the devil.
Yeah, he's the devil. But yeah, it's one of those where he's like, "Oh, what would you do for this?" And he's very nice. Everybody's kind of like, "Oh, he's such a nice old man," and everything. But yeah, then he sows the seeds of chaos.
I don't remember in the movie. In the book, they have a secondary Henry Bowers type antagonist, and I believe it was Ace who was the bully in Stand By Me, but it may not be in fact, I don't think it's in the movie. Anyway.
Then he did the Shawshank Redemption, and we can skip over that. The Mangler, the Shawshank Redemption, which was based on the Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption short story that he wrote.
Have you read that?
I have never read that. No. This is probably the best. This is easily the best movie on this list.
Yep.
And we have Stand By Me here, and we have The Shining.
This is Frank Darabont's second feature film. He did The Woman in the Room in 1983, but like pretty much his big league premiere. That's insane.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
And it's probably, I think Frank Darabont's career is very interesting because you can see, I feel like he's a man that needs to be left alone.
Yeah, I think so.
And this was not expected to be IMDb's highest rated movie of all time when they were making this movie. Maybe they thought some, awards recognition certainly didn't make a lot of money in the box office. So there was probably a lot of freedom. There wasn't a lot of studio interference. And then, the Walking Dead thing just makes me think, because he made a first season of The Walking Dead that was
spectacular,
pretty great.
Yes.
And then they literally said, okay, to save money, we want the whole next season to be set on one farm. And he was like, well, that doesn't make any story sense. And so he's ousted, ends up suing them. But, in the times when he has been left alone to do his thing, like this movie and Green Mile, for the most part, he hits home runs.
Yep.
Yeah. And this movie did not make a lot of money, although I think it finally ended up making a decent amount because of the Oscars, which is not something that really happens today. There used to be an Oscar effect back in 1994 and everything. So it ended up making a decent amount. It never was a huge hit, though. And mainly because of its name. And poor Tim Robbins was in this and The Hudsucker Proxy the same year.
Oh, and they're both two of my favorite movies ever.
This would be one of those years that would be interesting to see if you just redid the Oscars of 1994.
No kidding, man.
Would you have Pulp Fiction and Shawshank going at it while Forrest Gump would just be looking to the side?
Mm-hmm.
Or would people still be like, Forrest Gump, man?
I think most people probably would. Not us, but I think most people probably would.
I honestly don't know. I think this would be a different situation
this
year. I mean, if you did it this year. I think there would still be a lot of support for Forrest Gump, but I think there would be more support for Shawshank and Pulp Fiction than there was back then.
A movie about wrongly accused man, depression in prison, it's surprisingly quotable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
Like just yesterday, my wife and I were disagreeing on how a piece of kitchen equipment worked. And at one point I said, Red, I do believe you're talking out of your ass. It's super quotable. I think I tweeted a few months ago, like, you can ask what's the best scene in Shawshank, and there's like 12 scenes people could answer, and I wouldn't have a thing to say against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could say the scene where he's on the roof and finally gets his hooks in the guard. You could say the scene where he plays the records. It just goes on and on and on. It's such a delight. I love this
final scene. The final that shot of the going through the poster.
Yeah.
To the tunnel and everything. God damn, this is a brilliant movie.
Thomas Newman score is fucking amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
So good. Yeah, Shawshank Redemption is fucking ridiculously good. If you haven't seen that fucking movie, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast.
Well, a lot of these are like, you could argue that the book is better than the movie. Maybe The Shining is the exception. This one, the book or the short story is fine. It's very good. It's basically the movie, but the movie's just in a whole different, universe.
Yeah, it's just one of those magical things where everything came together.
And then same thing with the Mangler. That happened.
Exactly. Now, that's the one about the garbage disposal that goes evil.
You can make that case and be like, yeah, probably.
Toby Hooper wrote and directed this one. I didn't see it though.
I didn't either.
I don't even remember it coming out actually.
Nope.
I think I remember seeing the trailer for it maybe, but I don't remember it coming out. Came out in 1995, but yeah, I didn't see it. I saw Dolores Claiborne, but I do not remember a fucking thing about it.
Oh, man, this movie's intense.
Yeah?
Did you ever see this?
No, but it's Kathy Bates again, right?
It's Kathy Bates and Jennifer Jason Leigh playing her
like
daughter.
Skeletons in the Closet of the Family, whatever. Yeah.
It's much more dramatic. I don't even think there's a supernatural element to it.
Oh, yeah?
She gets arrested and charged with elder death. Basically, she's taking care of this older woman. And because she's found like over the body with a rolling pin.
Oh, I've seen Matlock. Those people are never guilty.
I know, right? and that's the tip of the iceberg. This whole reason that she does this and all that stuff. And then Jennifer Jason Leigh's phenomenal in this movie. Both of them are. She comes in and then, skeletons in the closet and stuff like that. This movie's excellent.
Taylor Hackford, who's known for Devil's Advocate.
That's right.
In these parts.
Officer and a Gentleman, but mostly Devil's Advocate.
Mostly Devil's Advocate. I remember there was an actual reference to Shawshank in this movie because there's a point where Kathy Bates says...
Shawshank Prison?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a point where Kathy Bates says, we're going to send you to Shawshank.
Yeah.
And that it's very quickly dusted aside, but that was a little reference. Of course...
He's done that. I think hasn't Shawshank referenced in another book too?
Think so.
Casually,
yeah,
just
yeah,
in prison.
And that is the thing with King is that a lot of his books are in the same world. So like a lot of them take place in Salem or whatever. Is it Salem? It's not Salem.
Well, Castle Rock is one.
Is it Castle Rock? Oh, it's not just Castle Rock, but is it
all over Maine? God, what is
maybe it is. Maybe Castle Rock is the main. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's all around Maine and New England.
Yeah, and he'll reference things throughout other books that were in other,
And that's not even getting into the whole Dark Tower thing because he started writing The Gunslinger in the 70s. But it was never even everybody was talking about adapting it, including him. But it just kind of came out with references. Actually, we'll get to Hearts in Atlantis and like Dreamcatcher that there's oblique references in the movies, but they never really did anything until The Dark Tower in 2017.
Then Thinner. Oh, what a bad movie.
This is a terrible movie and it's gross.
Yeah.
Is this the movie where Eddie Murphy says, "Thank you, I'm fatter. I mean flatter." Shortly before he goes on Jenny Craig.
Yes. It's funny. I think this did come out the same year as Nutty Professor.
Yeah. What is it? It was
96.
96. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true.
Thinner stars Michael Constantine. Actually, the main guy, I can't remember the main people in it, but it's this guy. He pisses off this gypsy guy. Michael Constantine plays, and then I do remember there was a very, very hot Carrie Werrer was in this movie too.
Yeah.
Carrie Werrer, the rural juror.
The rural juror.
Didn't she? She was with Val Kilmer for a while, wasn't she?
She was with George Clooney.
Oh,
because she shows up or is it Krista Allen that he was with?
Krista Allen.
It was Krista Allen he was with. I don't know if Val Kilmer was with Joanne Whalley for a long time, but I think
Wally and Werr are getting confused in my head.
But yeah, it's this like he pisses off this gypsy guy and he's like, he runs over his daughter, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
And then so he's like, I curse you and and he goes thinner or whatever. And so like this guy gets progressively thinner no matter how much he eats.
Yeah.
And yes, thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner.
It's the opposite of 7.
Yes, it's the opposite of 7. The Night Flyer.
Ooh.
I don't know this one at all.
This one I'd never even heard of. It's got Miguel Ferrer.
Yeah, Ferrer.
And I don't even remember it coming out. It got panned. Weirdly enough, Leonard Maltin gave it a generally positive review. That's the only thing I know about this movie.
Okay.
Mostly because of Miguel Ferrer's performance.
Apt Pupil, which I did see. This is Bryan Singer. This is fucked up.
Yikes. This movie's fucked up.
Yeah, Ian McKellen and Brad Renfro.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember Ian McKellen is like some former Nazi guy.
Yeah.
And that's all I remember.
Do you remember this movie?
I think the kid is there on some kind of community service deal and
and
figures out that he used to be a Nazi and then holds it over him.
And forces him to relive his Nazi days for his own rocks-off enjoyment.
Boy blackmails his neighbor after suspecting
And
him.
then, and this movie's just uncomfortable all the way through because, like, he gets off on the Nazi stories and then Ian McKellen doesn't, like, his soul is hurting because he's reliving these things, but he actually did these things. And then it turns into this whole thing where, you know, he has the upper hand on Brad Renfro's character and forces him to be a better student. And it's just gross. It's a gross movie. It's very effective. In fact, it's well acted and everything, but it's gross.
And this was his follow-up to The Usual Suspects, too. This is right
Yeah,
after
I
he
guess
did
so.
Usual Suspects.
98?
He did Apt Pupil, 98, yeah. I saw it. I don't remember anything about it other than McKellen at one point, he's got to do some of his Nazi stuff in front of him and everything. It's like a terrifying performance.
Yeah.
Because he's doing all this like stuff he had to do back in the day, and that's all I really remember about it. But,
yeah, it's a well done movie, but it's uncomfortable.
Darabont comes back with The Green Mile.
I watched this again the other day.
Yeah,
I love this movie.
yeah, it's a great movie.
The only thing I don't like about this movie, and this is I'm about to say one of the stupidest things I've ever said. I'm not sure I like the color filter.
I got you.
The colors pop a little too bright, and I feel like it needs Shawshank's filter on the camera. I don't know, maybe.
I could dig it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The yellows are very yellowy.
Yeah, man, this movie's awesome. I really liked it. Like, first time I saw it, I was like, that was pretty good. And then, like, the fourth time I saw it, I was like, oh, man, Michael Clark Duncan is so good.
Yeah.
It's weird because it all hinges, like, it's basically, first of all, the camaraderie between, or the chemistry between David Morse and Tom Hanks and the other guy, Barry Pepper, is terrific, right? And everybody knows what the pecking order is, but they all get along. They get along with the inmates and everything. And then right when Sam Rockwell comes in, the whole movie changes because then you start getting in the supernatural stuff. Tom Hanks fucks his wife a bunch, and like you got like all this different. You've got that terrible scene with dude with the mustache from Evening Shade. With the rat, Mr. Jenks.
Oh, Michael Jeter.
Yeah. Evening Shade? You remember?
No, I never saw it.
Okay, anyway. But yeah, the whole movie turns on that, but it picks up the pace.
Yep.
And it's less about like the camaraderie between the guys as it is like the actual story going forward. I love this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way it resolves the what's his name? John Coffey? Is that his name? The way it resolves his story to show the viewer he definitely didn't murder those little girls.
Yeah.
They show you footage of why he had them in his arms and had their blood on his hands because he was trying to use his fucking touchy powers to heal them.
Yeah.
But humans who don't know about touchy powers are definitely putting that guy on death row.
And that happens not at the very end, but towards the very
it's
end.
not
right? Like they
not the
really
last
hold
thing.
it.
Yeah, they do.
Because it's a long movie. They hold it out because even though you sympathize with this character, you still think that he did
Yeah,
this.
you don't really know.
Yeah. It's a devastating movie too. Just the idea that he's fine with being executed too, and his reasonings for that and everything are devastating. But yeah, this movie's really, really, really good. It's got a huge cast in it. It's Gary Sinise pops up in there too.
Oh yeah.
Well, his
that's
wife
right.
that he has sex with a lot is Bonnie Hunt.
Bonnie Hunt.
That's right.
Yeah, he
Another
has.
Bonnie.
He has sex with her a bunch of times because he's got this. He's got a prostate problem or something.
I think it's like a UTI, like a urinary tract infection.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where Tom Hanks always has to have something involving peeing in his movies.
That scene is fucking hilarious, by the way, because he's a fucking death row guard captain guy. And Coffey's like, come here, boss.
Yeah.
Come here, boss. Closer, closer. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he gives him a cookie or something like that. And he fucking grabs his crotch.
Yeah.
He does.
And he doesn't, he's uncomfortable. He's like, Coffee, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then he sucks up all the
Yeah.
know.
And then he goes and they have sex a bunch, and Bonnie Hunt's like, oh my God, it's been 4 times or something like that.
Yep.
That's what that whole movie's about. It's about a man struggling with his prostate and his inability to fuck with his
I'll
wife.
tell you what, there's a lot of time spent on his pee-pee, though. A Like he's
It's
always
Tom Hanks,
going,
man. What is the deal with that? Is that I that people brought that up before, right? That Tom Hanks is always doing something with peeing in his movies.
What are the other big examples?
League of Their Own.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of them, but I'm going to blank.
I bet
Forrest
he pees
Gump.
in Terminal.
Oh,
Forrest
yeah.
Gump.
I bet.
No, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's a part. There's just always something with him peeing in these
Interesting.
movies, and so like, and there's way more than I'm thinking of right now. But I'm wondering if that's a thing he really like needs to have in the script, or if it's something that just is a weird coincidence. Like that's such a weird thing to want to have in all your movies.
I think in this particular story, I think that's part of the book itself.
It is.
But yeah, it's weird that it comes up again.
Yeah, but it's all the other stuff. Oh, Apollo 13.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's right. That's right.
The constellation Urian.
Yep. Hearts in Atlantis. I never saw this.
Oh, fuck this movie. This movie's boring as shit.
Yeah.
Hearts in Atlantis sounds more like a Madonna Guy Ritchie team up than a Stephen King.
This is Anthony Hopkins, and it goes nowhere. Now, this was supposed to. I actually read this book, and it was supposed to kind of fit in with the Dark Tower universe, but since there was no cinematic Dark Tower universe, movie's just completely aimless. Yeah, it's balls.
Yeah, Scott Hicks, who did Shine, directed this
Shine.
one. Dreamcatcher, which will always be to me the fucking movie that everybody complained about the Animatrix being on the beginning of it.
I like this okay.
Yeah, it's all right. It's one of those most average movies ever type movies.
It's a little gross, isn't it? With the like slippery eel, like grossness.
Creature gross.
Jason Lee stuff.
This is what you got. Morgan Freeman, and is it Aaron Eckhart is in this?
No, it's your boy. It's
Band of Brothers.
No, Thomas Jane. Yeah.
Thomas Jane. It's if it's not Aaron Eckhart, it's Thomas Jane.
No, Thomas Jane is in the Mist.
He is, but he's also in this.
Oh,
and Damian Lewis from Homeland.
No, Damian Lewis and Marky Mark's brother.
One of the Wahlbergs in here.
Donnie,
and Timothy Oliphant is in this too.
And there's like a Morgan Freeman at the end or something.
There is
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman.
yeah.
Sudden, not presidential, but still military official Morgan Freeman.
Secret Window. I never saw this. This is another writer one though.
You never saw this one?
I never saw this.
Man, I've seen this movie probably 12 times.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I've had the ending ruined for me already, but
well, you'll see it coming a mile away anyway. It's fun. It's a fun movie. John Turturro is the antagonist.
I think
He's
I always
creepy.
just flip this in my mind with Secret Garden, and I'm not just trying to be funny. I don't think I've ever seen this because I thought those two were the same movie.
Yeah, no, they're different. They're different.
Yeah, no, I get that now.
Secret Window is about a writer who, of course, has writer's block, so he goes to a cabin in the woods, and somebody accuses him, John Turturro's character accuses him, of stealing his story for his last, most famous one.
Oh.
And he's married to Maria Bello, but they're estranged, and it's very entertaining. It's very bottle episode-y. It's nothing of super big consequence, but Johnny Depp actually gives a very good performance in this.
David Koepp, Johnny Depp. David Koepp directed this. He did a movie called The Trigger Effect, which I don't think we've mentioned before. It's great. I love. Came out in '96.
Seen that?
It's one of these it's like apocalyptic type of story where everybody's trying to defend. It doesn't have zombies or anything like that. It's just it's the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Michael Rooker's in it. It's Dermot Mulroney, I think, and Elizabeth Shue.
It's a good movie.
Yeah,
I need to
and
revisit
it
that.
doesn't really. Kyle MacLachlan's in it, but like it's one of those movies that came out, and I don't think anybody. It's got a 5.7 on the IMDb, so maybe it just doesn't. It's not as good as I thought it. I remember it being, but he did that, and he also did Stir of Echoes, which I really enjoyed, and
Cool.
He did Premium Rush, and he did Mordecai. But Koepp is probably still best known for writing the screenplays for Jurassic Park and Mission Impossible and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Pretty good.
Riding the Bullet. I don't know this at all.
I don't know this either.
1408, which is a really good movie.
This the Christopher Columbus one with Sigourney Weaver?
Yes.
Oh wait, that's 1492.
Yeah. I mean, it's still this. I mean, who would know the difference?
This movie is fucking awesome, man.
Yeah.
I was not expecting anything. You've seen this movie, right? Samuel Jackson is the hotel clerk, and John Cusack is the guy who investigates haunted rooms.
Yes, although this movie thinks it's clever and it's not.
Oh, come on. Why?
The last 20 minutes went exactly as I expected him to go.
All right.
Because I'm not sure there's any other way it can go. Once he leaves the room.
I'm trying to remember, because I saw it fairly recently. I'm trying to remember the very, very ending.
I mean, it's old enough.
He doesn't find a way. Does he find a way out of it? Yeah, we can spoil it.
He finds a way out of it, and then finds out all along he was still in it. It was a fictional way out. It's like that. It's like that fucking Sherlock
Escape
Holmes
room?
episode of Star Trek: Next Generation.
So he's still in the room. That's right. Yeah, he's still in the room, but he thinks he's gotten out and saved his daughter and all that.
Yeah, and the
shit.
very end is he realizes he's still in the room.
That's kind of clever.
I'm not saying well, yes, if it was the first story I'd ever seen. But if the
Maybe
whole
you're
thing
too clever for
if
this
the whole
movie.
thing is the room makes you hallucinate shit that's scary, and then you get away from it. Of course, you didn't get away from it. I've seen movies before.
the whole movie is the fact. The whole movie to me is the fact that he's so in disbelief of this that there's no way that this could be, anything approaching reality. When in fact, he fucks with the wrong Marine. You know what I mean? Like he actually, and Sammy Jackson is there to actually warn him, being like, no, if you do this, you'll trap yourself in the multiverse or whatever it is.
Cusack's been debunking all sorts of haunted houses, and then he goes into this one and says, why should this be any different?
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out it's completely different from what he's
I liked
doing.
it.
Oh, you're allowed to like it. I'm sorry, I wasn't saying it was bad.
Did you like it, Chris?
Yeah, I remember liking it.
I
can see where Jeremy's coming from, though.
Saying Lincoln was pretty predictable too, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, in Titanic, that was. The Mist is another one that I think everybody in this room likes.
Yes.
And I don't know if everybody else does in the world, but it's one of those that it's Frank Darabont again.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is great, and maybe and is it possible though that we think it's great because of how it ends?
Yes.
Yeah.
Entirely.
Because I think
Entirely?
Well, for me, I haven't read the book, but from what I understand, the book does not end that way.
No, it doesn't.
I guess Darabont must have had his King's blessing to do that, because that makes the movie for
it
me.
does. Otherwise, it's just a regular Stephen
CGI
King story.
is not very good. Marcia Gay Harden needs to dial it back about 20%. And it's just okay. That ending is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense. He could because until he runs into the monsters,
Right.
he should be, because the whole thing is him getting out of this situation.
Yeah.
I understand that you're losing hope, but if you're going to lose hope, you should have lost hope back at the fucking shop.
Yeah. But
I love it. I love it. It just makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, I believe the short story ended with sort of this ambiguous, like the mist was still there, and the people had to survive it. They didn't really have an ending to it. It was very open ended. So I don't think it had like a definite whatever. Just the mist was there, and it's still there today. And
the movie's got big old hairy nuts.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've seen very many mainstream, just straight up movies that would have the balls to do this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there was somebody screaming in his ear, "You can't kill children," and he was like, "Watch me."
Yeah. Dolan's Cadillac. I don't know this at all.
Yeah, this was a Canadian crime film featuring Christian Slater
All right,
and Wes Bentley.
two of the most famous Canadians ever.
That's right. That's right. And Emmanuel Varier.
All right.
I don't know who that is.
No.
But
Is it Vert?
what?
Is it spelled Vert?
No, it's spelled Vaugier.
No T's?
No.
Then I don't know her.
Then the remake of Carrie came out. We talked about that. A Good Marriage. Don't know this one either.
This one, I've never seen this one either. It's Joan Allen and Anthony LaPaglia.
Okay. And then Mercy. I don't know this one at all.
It's a sequel to Misery, where she's just super nice
He's got
to people.
some sort of M trilogy going on.
This is a Blumhouse movie, and I'd never seen it either. It's Frances O'Connor and Chandler Riggs. So I don't know if it's any good.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time coming up with it on the IMDb right away too.
Well, I'm sure there's a million mercies.
Well, no, but I mean, even when I like press return after I say Mercy, and it usually gives me the top possible listings, Mercy doesn't even show it.
It was shitty.
Cell. I haven't seen this either. I think I remember the book.
Yeah,
coming
I read
out.
the book. This is your Russell Brand. Like, oh god, like the cell phone kills you. It actually doesn't kill you. It turns you into a zombie.
Oh, with John Cusack?
Yeah, it's Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson again.
And it's like the darkest movie ever shot?
It is super fucking dark. You're right.
I saw half of this and I got annoyed.
Well, because of how dark it was?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's also fucking ludicrous. So he wrote the book in 2006 where it made a certain amount of sense that John Cusack did not use a cell phone when the whole pulse thing went out that turned everybody into zombies. But in 2014 or whatever this was, 2016 actually, just makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
Yeah,
so,
that's weird.
Yeah. This movie, the book is interesting and pretty good. The movie is really shitty.
Yeah, okay, great.
The Dark Tower, which
Talk
is
about shitty.
This is one of the most disappointing movie experiences ever.
It doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, I think Idris Elba is a perfect gunslinger.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Matthew McConaughey is the best villain to be in this.
See, I thought he was all right. I mean
he's
the
fine.
character. He's fine. The character's shitty.
Yeah, I really don't see him playing this guy, but it doesn't really matter. You're right. It doesn't matter. From what I understand from you, now I've read only the first 3 books in the Dark Tower series, so I didn't read that whole thing. This was trying to cram every one of those books into one movie.
Yeah, it was. And that's maybe 12,000 pages. I'm being probably conservative. It may be more than that. That's 7 books. The longest, I believe, is the 4th one. And man, there's way too much nuance. Even if you are going to distill it down to a singular story, just do the Gunslinger. Mm-hmm. You've read the Gunslinger's a great story.
It'd be a great movie
that has a beginning, middle, and an end that sets up, a whole series. But just do that fucking thing.
This is one of those after effects, right, of trying to make a franchise or whatever, where I guess they decided, we're not going to try to make all these movies, so let's just make one big one. And then they were supposed to make some TV series. Yeah. And if you're making a movie with the idea that there's going to be a TV series later, then you're fucking your movie up.
You're going in the wrong direction too.
Right, exactly.
It starts in the middle of a story. It's not even the Dark Tower story. It just starts in the middle where like his dad is dead and there's the Jake character and there's all this stuff. It starts really in the middle of the series with no background on it.
Yeah. It's real shitty, and I hate seeing Idris Elba in bad movies.
I do too.
It Chapter 1, obviously It Chapter 2 came out earlier this year, or 3 months ago. The first one is awesome.
It is.
The second one is not that awesome.
On this list, it's probably behind The Shining and Shawshank, and Stand By Me is probably my favorite of all these.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first It is excellent. It's well made, got great effects in it. It's scary. It's everything that you want. And then It Chapter 2 is kind of like the circus show.
I want to watch It Chapter 2 again.
Sure.
To see if maybe I was too hard on it. But I think I probably wasn't. I think it was just disappointing in so many different ways.
After our mini pod on that, people were pointing out that a lot of the stuff that happened in the movie did actually occur in the book, but I haven't read the book in forever, and I just don't like the way I just don't like the way it I think in general it suffers from the original material because that first half is so good, and then the second half, when you start making them adults and you don't have the same feeling for them. They're fucking shitty adults at that point.
They are.
The
chemistry is bad. There's no real focus on the backstory, especially with Bev. And they spend a lot more time on Richie's character than really probably anything else. And that one doesn't even pay off all that much.
Yeah. Gerald's Game. I remember the book coming out. I don't remember this movie though.
Oh, you didn't see this?
No.
This movie's awesome. This is on Netflix. I think it was a Netflix release. Have you seen this, Jeremy?
Mm-mm.
So it's Carlo Gugino and Bruce Greenwood not playing the president. He's playing Gerald.
Okay.
By the way, cut the fuck up in this movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
He is fucking like Marky Mark.
All right.
Cut up. He's like in his 60s, I guess, right? He seems like he's been in his 60s for the last 20 years.
He is now. Yeah, he's 63.
What it is I believe it's only two characters. It's just Carlo Gugino and him. He's Gerald. And he takes her to rekindle their romance to a cabin, handcuffs her to the bed to play some sexy times, but his sexy time is a rape fantasy. And she ain't into that. He gets out of the picture very quickly, and she's stuck there. And it's like a Seinfeld episode, right? But but it turns into
what did she say? $7? I'll spend my whole afternoon for $7.
But Carla Gugino gives an unfucking believable performance.
Really?
In this. She is. It's a really, really good movie. There's a little bit of gore in there, so maybe you probably wouldn't be a fan of it. But Chris, I think this is right up your alley.
Yeah, I might like this.
Yeah, it's really, 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 really good.
All right.
1922, which I haven't seen. This is on Netflix as well.
It is. That's I think Thomas Jane making a trifecta.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thomas Jane is in this. He's a farmer that kills his wife. The farmer kills his wife.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's how the song goes.
I hear this is very good. I haven't seen it.
Huh. And we have talked about Pet Sematary and It Chapter 2, and then there's finally It in the Tall Grass, which I haven't seen. It's also on Netflix.
Just came out in early October.
Mhm.
I hear great things about this. Well, I hear good things about this, actually. This is Patrick Wilson and Rachel Wilson.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, there you go.
I don't know who Rachel is.
Yeah, not either. Okay, so there you go. Stephen King.
Stephen King nailed it.
Yeah, that's right.
And scene.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe there's some movies on here we said we didn't watch that you guys have seen out there, and tell us if there's some that we should watch that we or maybe we gave some short shrift, or maybe we praised something that shouldn't have been praised.
Yeah.
I don't know. You need to come and tell us.
Yeah, and we will have seen, most likely, at least Chris and I will have seen Dr. Sleep by the time this actually posts. And I'm looking forward to it. Are you looking forward to it?
I am now, because there's all these good reviews for it.
Well, and it's also Mike Flanagan, who did not only Haunting of Hill House, but also did Gerald's Game.
Yeah, yeah.
And King loves this, Dr. Sleep.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I read a pretty interesting article about the threading of the needle that Flanagan had to do to sort of
balance the sides.
Well, he's got to pay some kind of tribute to the original because he's following that up.
Yeah.
But King hated that.
Yeah.
But also he wants to make a Mike Flanagan film, which King liked Gerald's Game apparently a great deal. And so, yeah, apparently he pulled off a miniature miracle by making this sequel that King loves. Even though it's different but same as the original.
That's something that comes up quite often with King, with directors, and I think that's how Darabont got Shawshank. This could be an urban legend for all I know, but there was a thing where Stephen King said if anybody wanted to adapt his works, and if you wanted to like make a short film or something and send it to him, he would look at it and be like, oh, okay, you're good. Okay, I'm good with that or whatever. And I'll have to look this up at some point. But I think Darabont sent him something before he got Shawshank. And King was like, yeah, man, you would be the perfect person to direct this or something like
awesome.
that. So I don't know if he still does that or ever did that, but that was some urban legend thing. I'm going to throw it out there into the world. might not even be true. I might be making it up. Who knows?
It's true now.
I'm not even looking.
Yeah.
I'm not even looking.
And I'm spent. That'll do it for this week. Go to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. Go to Cinemasins Twitter, Music Video Sins Twitter. We're on Reddit. We're on Discord, and there's a link on Reddit if you want to go there and find the link for that, or you want to go to Facebook, ask for a private message. I'll give you a link to Discord if you want to get on Discord.
For now, we're still on Facebook, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we're and probably for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there seems to be enough people on there right now who only use that to communicate with us. So
Got some good feedback though, right?
I think as long as I'm not using it as a tool for news, and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I'm just making comments and stuff, it's going to be perfectly fine, even though I hate using it.
Yeah.
So there's that. And we're also on SoundCloud as well.
That's
right.
right.
Anything else we need to talk about?
I think that's it.
That'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Sher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit Cinemasins.com.
So I actually went to this dentist. I don't go to this guy anymore, but he was recommended by a lady I work with. And I go, he's like, you got some cavities. We'll make an appointment, come back and clean my teeth. And then I left. I go back and she's like, so did the shaky hands kind of scare you? And I was like, what? And apparently the dude has like kind of a shaky thing, but when he gets down to business, he's all solid. And I was like, I'm not going back there.
Can I ask you guys a point of etiquette, or maybe just share a weird story?
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm going into Dunkin' Donuts this morning. Drive-through is slow as hell. Go into the thing, and it's early in the morning. So I get out of my car. I walk in. There was somebody that had pulled in before me, like 30 seconds. So I figured they're going to be in front of me. That's fine. She is sitting in her car, though, and I'm coming up about to hit the door. As soon as I get to the door, she pops out of the car, and she's right there. Now, I'm technically in front of her, and I could have just kind of like gone in and everything. I do this weird thing, though, when I'm walking into a place where I check my zipper. Like I do a little like phantom like guy right there just
Every
to make
guy
sure
in the
that
world
it's up.
does that, yeah.
Everybody does that?
I do.
Okay.
Only because my zipper's been down so many different times in my life.
I have a pretty good record. I have a pretty good record of you don't check it?
No.
Okay.
Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, if it's down, the chances of you just having everything exposed is insane. So like,
that's true.
So like, I don't really care. I mean, if someone says, "Hey, your zipper's down," like, oh, okay, whatever. So I don't go around checking it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's never down, but I always check it just to make sure. And so I get to the point where this very attractive woman is walking in, and I'm like, you know what, So I'm simultaneously checking the zipper, as I always do.
Nice.
And then I'm opening the door, and I realize that motherfucker's all the way down, and these jeans are to where they expose a little bit more than just your standard thing. And it's wide the fuck open.
Nice.
So I have this thing where now I'm like, hey, I'm opening the door, and then I've got my fucking hand jammed down my crotch.
Nice.
And I don't know if she noticed, but there was a pause.
Yeah.
She kind of looked, and she was like, thank you. And so, like, then I had to shut the door, zip up, because, you know, it was a weird thing. And so she probably thinks I'm pleasuring myself.
You got a weird thing going on there.
Yeah.
And then we have to stand in line for, like, probably, you know, another 2.5 minutes.
And then you have to go back in and say, no, it's not you. It's the Dunkin' Donuts.
I get so turned on by the donuts.
Those crispy.
Yeah, I came home from a regular dental cleaning once, and my wife said, "Hey, your zipper's down." I was like, "Oh shit!"
What, the whole time?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't take it down while I was there.
I get comfortable.
Is that pastrami? Yes, I find pastrami to be the most sensual of meats. The salted cured meats. Or whatever. Probably woke up early because that fucking daylight savings. Because that's how I woke up early.
Yes.
Because the sun was at 6:30 in the sky where it usually is at 7:30.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hate the sun.
Well, and my fucking cats think it's the fucking
Yeah, they don't care.
It's 5:30 and they're like, this is the usual time, right? Stop being a dick and get the food out.
That seems like it wasn't a Jeremy movie.
No, I could see. I can see exactly why you'd think that. I just, it may have been one of those days where I just didn't want to watch Apollo 13 for the 58th time, and I thought I'd check something new out.
It's been forever since I've seen the original Old Boy. I haven't seen the remake. Old Boy is the similar like setup, right? Like he's been buried underground in this plush thing for like one room thing for years, right?
Yes.
And then he comes out and he gets the
They
revenge
let him
and all
out
that.
after 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
I think it's 20. Because I think that's have you all seen Old Boy?
I've seen enough of Old Boy that I usually just say I've seen Old Boy.
Okay,
I've seen the original,
you didn't see
yeah.
the Spike Lee one, right?
No,
Okay, yeah, the original one is the one to go for, but it's just long enough so that his daughter is old enough so that they can do the whole, like, he doesn't know it's her and she doesn't know it's him, and things happen.
Yes.
Oh
Things.
no! Oh no!
Stuff and things.
Me, myself, and my dad.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what they should have called that movie. Well, that's our first Beverly Cleary reference.
It's very true.
I don't think we've even brought up, like, Ralph and the motorcycle.
I don't think so. Ramona
I
and
used to
Beezus.
love me some Ralph S. Mouse, man.
Yeah.